Welcome to The Reset, a weekly dispatch of experiences and takes on performance and modern care. For the athlete, the practitioner, and the thinker, we break down recovery, health, and performance systems to reshape the conversation around wellness. Hello everyone, and welcome to The Reset. Today's episode will be talking about the cardiovascular system, part 1 of a 2-part series for this month. The cardiovascular system is not just a network of vessels and a beating heart. It's the body's quiet current, the rhythm beneath every action, every thought, and every breath. It's movement within stillness, a constant negotiation between effort and ease, pressure and release, and demand and delivery. With every beat it carries more oxygen and nutrients. It carries information. Signals of stress, adaptation, and resilience. It reflects how we live, how we move, and how we respond to the world around us. And in that way, it becomes less of a system that we control and more of a system that reveals things to us. The Reset, Episode 37. The Cardiovascular System, Part 1. Going with the flow. Almost 700,000 deaths annually. Latest statistics show that with that number, heart disease and heart attack are still the leaders in mortality in North Americans annually. We talk about the heart as if it keeps time. Beats per minute, target zones, max heart rate, etc., etc. But the heart is not a metronome. It's a responder. It listens and adjusts when needed or able, and reveals better than almost any other system how well the body tolerates life and what life is throwing at it. And by life, I mean us as individuals. I'm not saying that these causes of death are absolutely avoidable all the time, but I do believe that our ability to ignore warning signs and push off responsibility to care for our central systems is. Let's clear the air, because my business basically relies on you understanding that there are ways to prevent and or slow down most ailments and pathologies that the human body can attract. There are no smoking guns or silver bullets, but for the most part, a preventative and holistic lifestyle is the way to go in all cases. Yet, we still choose latency and stagnancy over action. Again, there are many specialists suited to teach you this further, but what I'm going to share this month should come as a serious indication that there are ways we are preventing a full life for ourselves, and those ways can be remedied. Intro. The heart, the control center of blood flow in our body. It is a singular muscular structure situated in the center left of our rib cage, deep to the ribs and in between the lungs. This is the epicenter of our existence physiologically. Without the flow of blood throughout our body, we cease to exist. A little deep to start this one off, but the importance of this fact cannot be overstated. If we wish to better ourselves, it is not only the existence of this transfer and flow of blood that we must understand, but the details of its process. As many of you know already, the health of our heart within humans differs to the quality and adaptability of the blood flow within our body, not just the blood contents itself, which we will not be covering this blog. That brings us to the main topics that we will be covering. Number 1, heart rate variability, HRV. In other words, the range of heart rates that we can actively frequent. Number 2, stroke volume, SV, which is the amount of blood that is moved with each beat of the heart, or stroke. And number 3, peripheral resistance, PR, the typical resistance our body has during the transfer of blood from the heart to the limbs. We will talk about practical outcomes and applications to improve these states later, as well as some tests we typically use to measure the capacity of each. But as always, this is a learning tool meant to be utilized in a way to educate ourselves a little bit more, not as medical advice, And if you experience any symptoms, you should certainly not stop at this blog. Go get yourself checked. A little side note, if you guys are feeling well enough to continue learning with us, enjoying this read, as well as the others, make sure to click the link below in the post itself to join the Discord channel that I've created. This is where you can have direct access to me and my knowledge 24/7 should you need it or want it. I appreciate the support. The overall picture. I spend most of my professional time analyzing what could and would be highly effective in treating my patients' pain problems. A lot of the issues that I see and I work with them on revolve around pain in regards to movement dysfunction. That being pain that arises due to either a movement pattern fault causing injury or a lack of movement pattern function at all. The latter is the result of an overly passive lifestyle, one of which can be attributed to many outcomes and measures, most of which I cannot affect directly with my work. However, the statement I can and most often do make is one of warning that without some regular movement, we literally close the door on receiving nutrients to our body's functioning parts. That is, the muscles, bones, skin, digestive tract, and organs responsible for breathing, producing hormones, and filtrating waste in our body's functioning parts. This parts list is extensive and draining, if I'm honest. So with that in mind, I will spare you the majority of it, without sacrificing the details necessary to retain some information of how it all works. At least I will try. So here it goes. To start this topic off, let's visit the anatomy of the heart and blood vessels. I will highlight the key players in the function of the system, and we can build off of that. For simplicity's sake, we can look at the cardiovascular system as two separate parts. One that pumps blood into the rest of the body, and one that accepts its return. Each system has many important functions, and together they create an efficient and seamless flow of nutrients to the entire body. Section 1. Baseline Physiology and Foundation. Let us continue to reframe our understanding of how the body works by again using the example of a highway with a series of off and on ramps to other roads. The vascular system has a system of roads it can utilize to deliver the nutrients that our blood carries. These roads lead to pretty much everything in the body. In fact, to give you an idea of how many blood vessels there are in the body, below I have attached an image of what the blood vessels alone look like if you were to separate them from all other structures and tissues in the human anatomy. It's not for the squeamish because it can elicit a little bit of a response, but if you want to see that, go to the resetblog.substack.com to check it out. Arteries, veins, and capillaries. These are the three types of vessels that the cardiovascular system is made of. Arteries and veins carry blood and lymph fluid throughout the entire body to send oxygen and nutrients to the tissues and take away waste, such as carbon dioxide, which is a byproduct of movement. The arteries are thick and elastic by nature, which allows them to absorb the heavy contractions from the heart during direct transport, while the veins carry oxygen-poor blood back to the heart to be reoxygenated and redistributed throughout the entire body once again. The capillaries are there to facilitate the exchange of these fluids, that being the delivery of oxygen to the tissues and extraction of lymph and carbon dioxide from the tissues. Think of them as distribution centers. They can also act as regulators for the transfer of these fluids, ensuring that a healthy balance between the two occurs. The vascular system is directly connected to many other systems in the body during this function, including, but not limited to, the respiratory system, the digestion system, and the urinary system. all of which have their own month of coverage in the future of this blog. The heart itself is a 4-chambered muscular structure that has 2 atriums, left and right, for receiving blood, and 2 ventricles, left and right, for pumping blood. This is the basic flow of blood inside the heart itself, accompanied by a series of very important valves which prevent backflow into the previous area that the blood traveled from. It contains 3 layers of soft tissue, which all have their own function: the outer, the muscular, and the inner layers. Section 2. Advanced function and adaptation and regulation. Adaptation and regulation of heart rate and blood flow are essential to the active, functioning human body. These functions rely on adapting to the variance in effort and resistance of blood flow throughout the body based on the exertion of the human being itself. As you may have put together already, what I'm talking about is when we increase our heart rate, either through stress, mental or emotional, or, more well understood, and what we'll be sticking to covering today, is physical stress. When a human becomes physically active, the cardiovascular system rapidly shifts from a resting state to a high-output delivery system designed to meet increased metabolic demand, aka we work harder, heart rate increases, and we increase blood flow to areas doing the work. Here's a short summary of what occurs in this process. I'm going to speak about the main points, but I'll spare you the technical and scientific details as I've laid them out in the written copy. If you go to theresetblog.substack.com, you can find all the details there. So, we have an increase in heart rate, which is driven by the sympathetic nervous system activation, fight or flight response. We talked about this in our nervous system posts. Stroke volume increases as well. Stroke volume is basically the blood pumped per beat, and that increases due to more blood coming back to the heart and a stronger contraction of the heart as exercise increases. Cardiac output rises also. Blood flow redistribution also takes place. Blood is redirected toward working muscles via vasodilation in the muscles themselves, meaning blood vessels open up, and vasoconstriction in the non-essential areas to exercise, typically the digestive system, and that basically means the blood vessels will contract and limit blood flow. With all of this, a few things happen. Blood pressure changes occur, and oxygen delivery and extraction increase, as well as venous return. Venous return is basically controlled by the muscle pump itself. Contracting muscles in the body push blood back to the heart. The best example of this is the calves, which is unofficially known as the second heart of the body. The contraction of the calves is very essential to actually push blood back up to the heart to be filtered again. And finally, to round this off, capillary recruitment increases. The more capillaries in the body will open up in the muscle tissue. This will improve oxygen diffusion to those areas, so delivery of that oxygen with the nutrients, and then also taking away the waste. As we talked about before, that the capillaries being the redistribution or the distribution centers of the body, basically an exchange of these nutrients and transfer them from the cells to the blood vessels and so forth. So the long-term adaptations with training that occur, this is what everyone's most excited about. If I train hard, what will happen? Am I going to become fit? Am I going to lose weight, etc.? Well, a few things certainly do happen. One of them being a lower resting heart rate basically states that your system is super efficient at pumping blood. It doesn't need a lot of effort to do so. Very good in longevity speaking. We want to last longer on this earth. We don't want to tax our system every waking moment of the day. The second thing that happens is an increased stroke volume. Basically, your cardiac muscles get stronger and a little bit more dense, and they're able to push more blood out per stroke. That's another point towards efficiency and longevity. You don't want it to work so hard to push one pump of blood out. Next is an improved endothelial function. Basically, without going into the scientific and technical details, it's your heart becomes better at vasodilation. Your system becomes better at vasodilation. So opening the blood vessels to allow for all this increased blood flow. And the final thing is increased blood volume and capillary density. So the overall volume of your blood in your body will increase, as well as the capillary's ability to accept all the nutrients at the end game, right? So if you, much like, let's just say the distribution center is run out of space, that would indicate a capillary density that's not very large. No matter how much delivery you get to those capillaries, it can't accept it. So we want those to improve as well. All of this happens without a doubt with training the cardiovascular system. The bottom line, from a cardiovascular lens, exercise is about scaling oxygen delivery to match the demand, right? How much do you need? How much can you give it? The system achieves this by increasing flow, cardiac output, and improving extraction. That is the VO2 difference. So all this coordinated within seconds via neural and hormonal control is basically what we're looking to do when we train, right? When we look at cardiovascular health, we want to improve all this stuff and more than anything, improve the coordination of this system so that it works efficiently. Section 3, pressure as information. There are a few things that can prevent the above adaptations from occurring, either in a smaller, more performance-limiting way, or if things get more advanced, a life-ending way. The most obvious might be the actual resistance blood faces when moving through the body. We call this peripheral resistance. What is peripheral resistance? Well, peripheral resistance, or more technically worded, systemic vascular resistance, is the opposition to flow of blood within the blood vessels, primarily in the small arteries and arterioles. Think of it as how hard it is for the heart to push blood through the vascular system. For this, we can use the garden hose analogy. I've used this before as well. It's largely determined by 3 factors. Vessel diameter, most importantly, and is controlled by smooth muscle in vessel walls. Example would be vasoconstriction, where the blood vessel's diameter shrinks and resistance goes up, or vasodilation, where the blood vessel opens wider and pressure goes down. This is why working muscles typically receive more blood, because local vasodilation drops the resistance in those regions. Other factors are blood viscosity, which is basically thicker blood. During dehydration, this is very common. It equals more resistance, and vessel length. What limits cardiovascular adaptations during activity? Even though the system is highly adaptable, several bottlenecks can limit performance or blunt these responses. There can be central limitations that reside within the heart or blood vessels. There are 3 ways or 3 places this can typically be limited: at the start or during production, on the way to the final destination or during transit, or the final destination itself. In the written blog, I have included extreme detail at all 3 of these sources where the cardiovascular adaptations can be limited during activity. So if you'd like to read those yourself, you can head over to the blog and take a look at those. And I included a 4th constraint being mechanical constraints. So basically, we talk about mechanical restriction in the body. It's what my job is to reduce inflammation, myofascial tension, any kind of adhesion through layers of tissue that would otherwise prevent them from performing to their highest level.
We break down recovery, health, and performance systems to reshape the conversation around wellness.
Restriction. This can happen anywhere in the body, including the blood vessels and nerves, which is, mainly, like I said, what I deal with in my job day to day. So if you want to head over to the blog and read all that, that would be beneficial to you. And we're going to finish it off today with
a weekly dispatch of experiences and
nothing
takes
crazy.
on
I usually like
performance
to go
and modern
prescripted
care.
with this, so I'm
For
going to
the
start to
athlete, the
transfer
practitioner,
my
and the thinker,
my
we
blog
break down
reading into
recovery,
more of a
health,
podcast
and
style,
performance
so you guys
systems
get a
to
feel for
reshape
what
the
it's like talking
conversation
with me. I
around
know it can
wellness.
be very information heavy, and with that, it's very hard for me to convey a solid, cohesive message without writing a lot of this stuff down in the blog format and then reading it to you. But I do think there's something to be said for human connection, and I want to transfer more of my podcast edits into that realm of things, that form of communication. So to conclude this episode, I'll just go out on a whim and do this one take here. But, I think with the cardiovascular topic itself, it's very important. Obviously, we all know the importance. We've seen the stats. We hear about it all the time. It's very easy to tune out to this stuff because there's so much information out there. But the general message I want to get across today is, quite literally, this is the lifeline of the human. So, all these things we're talking about, all these functions of the body, all these adaptations that we want to occur, they mean nothing if we don't go out there and exercise them, right? And by exercise them, I mean quite literally exercise, move around. It doesn't have to be super intense training for triathlons all the time or anything like that, but this stuff, it's like a car being run, right? If you buy a nice vintage car, beautiful, it's a thing of beauty. It's mechanically speaking one of the best inventions on earth, being the vehicle itself. It doesn't matter. It doesn't work if it doesn't work, right? We need to turn it on. We need to utilize it. We need to make sure we're lubricating things and becoming fluid in our movements. And, a lot of the people I see have breakdowns in their basic movements day to day, bending over to pick something up, getting up from the couch, waking up in the morning as if they slept weird. It's basically a cry for help. Their bodies are not experiencing variance in movement, and you have to be skillful at them. It's not enough to just do them. We have to think about it. We have to practice it. It sounds like a lot, but you got to think of your body as a machine that way. You have to make sure that it's managed properly. And that's up to us. So the cardiovascular topic itself, if we could take care of that alone, I think a lot of ailments, a lot of pathologies, a lot of things that we read about, that we maybe experience ourselves, can be avoided or at least lessened in their intensity towards us. And it's very important that we take that seriously. So wrapping it up, thanks for reading. I appreciate. Thanks for following, listening along. I appreciate the support, and I really love doing this. So until next time, in health and performance, Alex.